Some show up at Keeneland just to be beautiful, some for the burgoo. Me, it's because the best handicapping challenge on God's green earth is right here in Kentucky. Star horses come from Florida, California, and New York, Arkansas, and Louisiana, all to what undoubtedly is the greatest horse racing melting pot in America.
Into the stretch at Keeneland, and Flight Line just moves right by. Life is good.
Win here and you've done something. Love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. That's Keeneland. Now, let's get handicapping. A pleasant Friday night, everybody. If you're a Houston Astros fan after that thrilling ninth inning win over the Rangers, you're really happy as we get set for tonight's Keeneland Look Ahead. We will look at the Saturday, October 21st card, which features a pair of stakes races on the Saturday card, both 3-year-olds, both 7 furlongs, one for the Phillies, that being the Raven Run, and one for the Colts in the Perryville. Those are the co-features on the Saturday card of a weekend that includes the Dowager Stakes coming up on Sunday for the ladies in the Turf Marathon division. So good stakes racing action coming up Saturday and Sunday here at Keeneland. I'm Jeremy Plonk from Horse Player Now and Keeneland.com. You can check out my stats and trends blogs each day at Keeneland.com, as well as my handicapper selections in the handicapper selectors box, the consensus box you can download each day, print it out, good printable form too. So put our picks together, see what you come up with, and see if we can't make some cash on the Saturday card. Good handicapping day, best day of the meet for me so far. 6 winners on top on the 10-race card today. The conditions were soupy, no doubt about it. We lost 3 turf races. Everything was on the main track. Of the 7 originally scheduled main track races, those were where I had 6 winners. So the races that came off the turf, no luck on those particular ones, but 6 winners on top. 3 of my second choices won races as well on the 10-race card. So we were dialed in. There were no huge prices on the day, but we were right, and we hope to be right with some prices now as we get into the Saturday card. Now, if you watched the races from today's action, you know what happened, but if you didn't, let's give a quick recap here. 2 win days for the top 2 jockeys in the standings. Tyler Gaffalione had 2 wins, as did Luis Saez. So they both came into the day with 13. They're now tied at the top, 15 wins apiece in the standings. 6 days of racing remain at Keeneland. We've got 2 more days this week, Saturday and Sunday, and then a 4-day racing week next week that runs through Wednesday through Saturday before the action then goes to Churchill Downs for the fall on the Kentucky circuit. So jockey standings tied 15-15 by the 2 guys that have won the last 10, 12, 13 titles in a row. I don't even know how many in a row it's been. It's been so many where it's either been Saez or it's been Gaffalione. It's going to happen again. Those 2 are locked up at the top. And it was a slow start for Tyler, but he picked it up after opening weekend, and he's got it going right now. Wesley Ward had 2 wins on the card today, and really it was a day where there were a couple turf sprints scheduled, but they came off the turf. Ward won 2 nonetheless, so good day for him. And it was nice to see Raging C back today, 3rd-place finisher in last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies here at Keeneland. And, of course, she was also on the board in the Alcibiades last year as a 2-year-old. She was back to Keeneland for the first time since last year's Breeders' Cup, and she looked good in Allowance Company today. She's destined to get back into the stakes ranks. Hopefully trainer Chad Brown will keep her healthy, and she'll be able to proceed through the winter and into the spring. Could be a good one in the distaff division. A 3-year-old who really didn't get a lot of wear on the tires this year. So nice to see her back today. Raging C looked awfully good. Could be something in Churchill, right? Fall City, something like that. Take on older horses post Breeders' Cup. That Thanksgiving weekend would make a lot of sense. But she's definitely destined back for the stakes races. Good win today. 3 1/4 length margin in Allowance Company for Raging C. So only 1 winner of the 10 races today on the program at Keeneland, or was it 9 races on no, it was 10. It was a 10-race card on Thursday. 10-race card today. Only one of the 10 winners was more than 2.5 lengths off the lead after about a half mile into the race, even a quarter mile into the race. So really only 1 closer on the card. It was speed favoring, but it was very sloppy. What kind of conditions are we going to see on Saturday? Let's talk about that first. The weather forecast looks good. Temps in the high 60s, maybe brushing 70 degrees. A sunny sky. So it's going to be a nice day. The track is going to dry out throughout the day. Now, will that drying out process take place in the morning? And by the time we get to the afternoon racing, it's a really fair and even kind of racetrack? Or is it going to be slow drying and where we start the day where it gets really heavy and boggy, and as the day goes on, then it kind of picks up speed a little bit? We're simply going to have to wait and find out. We're going to have to watch a race or two. You can look at the workout tab tomorrow and see if the times look faster or slower than normal. Might give you a little bit of hint of what might go on. And certainly you want to tune into the Today at Keeneland show at 11:30 a.m. Eastern with Scott Hazelton, Caton Bradar. They're going to take you through their preview of the card from on track right there, and you're going to get to see what the track looks like and get a good sense of how it might play. But certainly today it was speed favoring. You get that on a sloppy track that was sealed and had water on top of it, but they're going to open the track up. They're going to harrow it for sure to dry it out, and it's just a matter of how fast it dries and how much water Mother Nature helps take out of it tomorrow morning and into the early part of the afternoon hours. My guess is it might start out pretty slow and heavy and demanding at the start of the day and then kind of dry more and get a little quicker as the day progresses. We shall see. Now, we do have a 10-race card set for Saturday, as we mentioned, 2 stakes races on the program. Let's take a look at the big picture and see how the multi-race wagers line up on this card. Pick 5 begins in race number 1 on a 10-race program. Second race on the cards got you the early pick 4. The turf pick 3, these are a little different numbers. We've been seeing a lot of 5, 7, 9 for the turf pick 3 throughout the meet. The turf pick 3 on Saturday will be races 4, 8, and 10. 4, 8, and 10 for the turf pick 3, denoted there in green. Pick 6, no carryover. Pick 6 starts in race number 5 for the Saturday card. We've got stakes action, the Perryville in race number 6. That's also going to start the late pick 5. The late pick 4 starts in the 7th race, and the turf pick 3 again continues in the 8th and 10th. The featured stakes race, the Raven Run, will be race number 9. Now, my key plays on the card come at the end of the program, races 8, 9, and 10. Part of that's necessity, and part of that is reality. Early in the program, I've got a lot of shorter priced horses, similar to the kind of card that we saw on Friday. Maybe we're right. Maybe we can still make some hay, grouping some together and hitting multi-race wagers. But I think the better prices for me on Saturday happen to come in the later races. So I'm going to mark those up as my key plays. Races 8, 9, and 10. We will tell you who those races and horses are as we get to each one individually. Now let's get to the handicapper selectors box. We've got Caton Bradar back in there today. I know we had a snafu on the website without Caton's picks up there when we recorded our podcast yesterday. But we've got Caton up there for Saturday. So 5 handicappers back in the box. Scott Hazelton and Caton from the simulcast feed. Tom Leach, the voice of the Wildcats, he'll be busy all weekend for sure. Kim Nelson, our pedigree expert, she's got her picks on the right side of the column. I'm down the middle, so we will look at these picks and try to compare and contrast where we've got some agreement, where we've got disagreement, where we might get nice prices, and where we might expect the favorites to lie based on public handicapper agreement. Okay, let's get started. Race number 1 on this Saturday card is a $62,500 claimer. This is an upper-level claiming event, and Chris Hartman's had a good meet. 4 winners at the meet so far, 2 in claiming races, 2 in maiden claimers. He's got Vulcan in here, top choice by myself, Tom, and Caton. Vulcan's 4-1 in the morning line. Arietta's ridden 2 of the 4 winners so far at the meet for Hartman. I like this one back in what looks to be a pretty good spot. Claim for $50,000 at Ellis, has improved in the 2 starts since coming to the barn. You see that often when Hartman claims one. And now they get back to really a realistic level. This horse is probably most competitive in those kind of $50,000, $60,000 kind of level. Vulcan, I think the horse to beat in race number 1. Got some agreement with my partners. And everybody's got Vulcan picked first or second. So that being said, 4-1 in the morning line. Are we expecting to get 4-1 on Vulcan in this field? Probably not. Mac Daddy 2 is the 8-5 morning line favorite. Cold as Hell is 5-2 is the second choice. Vulcan's listed as Nick Tamaro's third choice in the morning line at 4-1. But may go a bit lower than that based on what we're seeing here with the other public handicappers. Mac Daddy 2's got speed for Norm Cassie. Cassie with a win on the card. This is another horse who's kind of getting back to a more realistic level. Claimed for $30,000 back in May. Similar story to what we're seeing with Vulcan. Then tried tougher. Now back in where you should belong. I would think Mac Daddy 2 is going to be right in this mix. And Cold as Hell for the Hall of Famer, Wayne Lucas. We'll try to give Lucas his first win at Keeneland in more than 2 years. This horse ran a good second in the 22 fall meet here at Keeneland. So we know Cold as Hell likes it here at Keeneland. We'll see if capable of kind of carrying the speed. Will be one of the front runners. You know, we're going to see how the track plays. The 3, 4, and 5 are the main players in this race. Also the 6, Comiskey Park. The 7, the Alligator Hunter. All the horses who have pretty good form in here are horses who have some early speed about them. So there could be 3 or 4 up there battling on the front. it doesn't look like a closer's profile race in terms of on paper. So this will be a little bit of a good bellwether race for us to see how the track is playing, because the horses in here who don't have any early speed look like they're overmatched. So if they're able to rally and win this race, that will tell me that the track's really deep and tiring, and then that 4 of the good speed horses all came back to 2 horses that don't look that great on paper. So if we get a rallying winner of this race and it's not a horse on paper that looks logical to you, that'll tell you it's a very deep and tiring, drying out racetrack, which you often get when things are drying out like that. Very, very heavy for the horses and demanding on their stamina and their fitness. Let's go back to the big picture as we take a look at race number 2, and this will start the early pick 4. So the early pick 4 gets underway in the second race with a maiden claimer. These are 2-year-old fillies going 6 on the main track. Looking for some horses with some experience, and really this is what we've got in this field. The first-time starters only on the outside here. Typically, unless one draws in off the also eligible list, most of the horses in this 2-year-old maiden claimer have some experience, and we prefer the experience statistically. The 5 Dancing Nancy, going to be a very tough one to beat in here based on running lines, form lines. Dancing Nancy, my top pick, as well as Scott Hazelton. Picked second in here by Kate and Kim and also Tom. So everybody's got Dancing Nancy 1 or 2. And the big reason for that is last time ran 4th at Saratoga behind Candide. Candide came back here on opening day and just ran a corker of a race in the Grade 2 Alcibiades Stakes. She will go to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies as one of the favorites in that division for trainer Todd Pletcher. So the 4th behind Candide, albeit 11 lengths at Saratoga, certainly going to draw the eye and the attention of people as Dancing Nancy for Chad Brown drops from maiden special into a maiden claiming 30 here. I mean, this is just dropping off the table. Florent Giroux is going to ride here for Chad Brown. Interesting jockey assignment here. Not one of the guys who typically rides first call for Brown. So curious, but a horse who, if she runs back to that previous form, should be awfully tough. Chad Brown does not run maiden claimers here at Keeneland, hardly at all, but he has run earlier this meet, and I think he had one in today. He's had 2 at the meet. One of them won. So he can drop one in for a maiden claimer, and it's not just a complete fire sale. Dancing Nancy, the 5 horse in race number 2, should be a very short price, 6 to 5 on the morning line. I'm not going to try to beat that one. If I have a good option on somebody else who I really like, then I could get interested. The 4 Faster La Vista Baby is just okay to me. Comes off a claim for 20,000, now takes a step up in class. So you couldn't beat 20,000. You got beat 7 lengths. Now you got to beat a Saratoga class dropper out of a maiden special who ran 11 lengths off the Alcibiades winner last time. That's like a double, into the face of a class dropper. You're taking a class rise. That's a double whammy there. So Faster La Vista Baby might be second best option in here for me, and I don't think anywhere matching up at all with the top choice in here. Tom's going to take a shot with the first-time starter, Carpe Ostento. Kenny McPeak trains that one with a lot of international pedigree. Certainly the pedigree would suggest this horse would like an off-track or a turf course, but we will see if we get fast or good going on the main track how Carpe Ostento fares in the opener, in the second race, a first-time starter. We go to the third next up on the program, and no new wagers will start in race number 3. No multi-race wagers get started here, but of course it is part of the early pick 4 and the pick 5. Now I've got my top 3 in here, and I also have usable written next to the 1 and the 2, Charted and Kingmaker. So I'm looking at a race, if you're playing multi-race wagers, where you can consider as many as 5 of these, because the 5 Dancing Nancy in race number 2 looks like a single to me. So maybe you can get some depth here in the third race. 7, 12, 8, 1, and 2 are all horses that I would look at in the multi-race wagers. Bourbon Fever, my top choice for Norm Cassie, like we said, comes off a win. The Cassie Barn comes off a win on Friday going into the Saturday card. Bourbon Fever comes off a decent third place finish last time out at Churchill Downs. Again, these are maiden claimers going 6 furlongs. You expect the horses from Churchill Downs to be effective in these particular spots over the first time starters when you're looking at these maiden claimers. With the good maiden specials, the first time starters, you definitely put them in the mix. But a horse debuting in a maiden claimer at Keeneland, I'd rather take one with some experience based on the numbers. Colonel Barton, maybe the price play in here, the 8 horse at 15 to 1 in the morning line. Got that one in my top 3. Trainer Mike Pewich got this one. It's coming off of 4 straight in the money finishes, 5 straight in the super, but hasn't been able to punch out and get over the top. Maybe just finds the best company that she can find to get over the top and get to the winner's circle, or he, I should say, Colonel Barton. So There's no reason that this horse steps up today other than some consistency and maybe just a field that's not very good. Back to reality on the outside for Chris Hartman. We talked about Hartman with 4 wins at the meet, 2 claimers, 2 maiden claimers. He's got Vulcan in the opener, and then he's got Bourbon Fever in the third, and he's doing it with claimers and maiden claimers. So could be a good start to the program for trainer Chris Hartman. Certainly keep an eye on that one. Kingmaker, the 2, again, one of those I added in. I would say the 1 and the 2 are both horses that I want to put in. So 7, 12, 8, 1, 2. I've got really zero big opinion in this particular spot. And the third race will be one that I don't put a lot of my cash on. When I say don't bet a race, that means you bet double somewhere else. I mean, my job's to get you excited about playing the races, but not playing all the races. You got to be realistic as a handicapper. All races do not merit you playing based on your opinion the same amount of money. So if you really like a race and you're a $10 player, it's a $10 bet. If you don't like the race, you either pass it all together or put $2 on it. So now you got 8 left over to put on a race you do like. You still spend 20 over 2 races. You got 2 on a race you don't like and 18 on a race you really like. That's the way you want to kind of weight your wagers. And for me in race number 3, not very interested in that particular spot. 4th race on the card. Hopefully we will be back on the turf. Be sure to check social media channels, Keeneland Racing. Check the simulcast feed, Keeneland.com. You want to get your updated changes and conditions for Saturday as soon as you can. Again, we were off the turf Friday today. So Saturday's card, fingers crossed that we're on the turf. There are no stakes races on the turf. Both races in the stakes ranks are on the main track. So will they keep the allowance races for the Keeneland Turf Pick 3? As you saw today, they can still run the Keeneland Turf Pick 3 if they're not on turf, as we did today on the card. But these Keeneland Turf Pick 3 races, 4, 8, and 10, will they all stay on the grass? We shall find out. I handicap the 4th race tomorrow, assuming they will be on the grass. And if they are on the grass, you've got to figure there's some give in the turf course after the rains Thursday night into Friday and most of the day Friday. So this turf course will have some give to it. Look for horses who have soft ground and yielding ground good form. Also horses with foreign pedigrees and foreign racing experience where they've been on the goo a lot more than our American horses, who we pretty much shut it down when the turf conditions are on the softer side. So race number 4, we get started here and try to figure out who we're going to put in the winner's circle. I'm going with Via Reggio, and I think this is a very solid pick in here, but I don't think we're going to get a very big price. 2-1 on the morning line. It's Brendan Walsh and Tyler Gaffleone. What a year they've had together, about 25%. Really have had a strong season. This one comes out of the One Dreamer Stakes, the Dick Memorial at Delaware, at Santa Anita and the Gamely. Last time this horse was an allowance company like she will see today on Saturday, she was a winner here at Keeneland back in the spring meet of April 21st of this spring. That was at 1 mile and a 16. She should be coming on late. You'd say, well, maybe the race is a little bit short for her, but the deal is here is there is a ton of early speed in race number 4. I've got Hot Pace written at the top of my past performances as my headline in here. These horses are going to cook early. The 1, Do You Love Me, has got speed. The 2, Ovra, has speed. Sweet Danny Girl, the 3. Remember when I said in a podcast earlier this week, when the speed in a race, the horses that want to go to the early lead are on the far inside or the far outside, the race is usually even faster than it looks on paper because they're either trying to secure and save position or try to get position from the outside and not lose ground into the first turn. You've got a lot of early speed in this race. So Via Reggio, the 8 towards the outside, gets to just let the field go out of there. And they're going to go and they're going to go fast. If it's a boggy, heavy turf course, the stamina is going to be tested of these runners. Via Reggio, of course, Irish pedigree, Irish and French racing lines, also English racing lines, has run on plenty of good to soft turf courses over the course of her lifetime and is absolutely bred for it. So Via Reggio, to me, a very logical winner of race number 4. But the problem is I don't think we're going to make much off of it. And I think the exact is going to be formful too. That's why even intra-race, I don't think this is one that we're going to get too wound up about trying to dive into. Because, again, I think the second best horse in this race is going to be the 4, A Day in Asia. A Day in Asia, also with that British pedigree, a horse who's run on plenty of these softer grounds, and a come-from-behind closer off the Naira circuit under Flavien Prat for Christophe Clement. You've got good connections with the 8 and the 4 with similar kind of backgrounds, and you get the right pace setup. When the best horses in the race get the right pace setup, they very rarely give away that advantage. That tactical advantage is strong. So I really think this is 8 and 4. I think it's a cold exacta in here. Ouvra, the 2, is a horse who's gotten top picks in here from Caton, Scott, and Kim. So Tom and I've got the 8. The gals and Scott have the 2. So we got a full house here, 2s and 8s. As for the 2, Ovra, this is a horse, yes, he's won 3 in a row. She's won 3 in a row, but she's the daughter of Shackelford, who her last 3 starts are 6.5, 6.5, and 6 furlongs. She's done nothing but turf sprint throughout her entire career. Now goes the turf mile from post 2 under Gerardo Corrales. That first turn is going to come up on the 2 very fast. Very fast. So how will she manage the first turn, and how much other speed goes with her? The inside horse, Do You Love Me, is exceptionally fast. She's got nothing but 1s and 2s in her running line. So it is going to be a mad dash into the clubhouse turn here. That's why I didn't use Ouvra in my top 3, even though that horse obviously is talented, winning 3 straight races from Hawthorne to Kentucky Downs. Respect Chris Block, obviously, as a trainer, but I don't know about the 2 handling the pace pressure, handling 2 turns, and handling the distance. That's a lot to bite off all in one shot at what's probably going to be the second or probably third wagering choice in the race. I think the 2 international horses are going to get bet 1, 2, and I just think it's kind of a chalky exacta in race number 4. Again, this is why our key plays of the day are showing up in races 8, 9, and 10, right? As we go back to the big picture, you handicap ahead so you can kind of try to figure a card out. Race 1, don't really like it. There's not a whole lot to love and embrace. Race number 2 is probably going to be a Chad Brown heavy favorite. Race 3, don't really have much I like. It's kind of a 5 deep situation with no real opinion. And race 4 looks very chalky to me. But to start the Keeneland Turf pick 3, I would single Via Reggio in here in race number 4. And maybe the first serious play of the day you make is the Keeneland Turf pick 3, taking the single here in race number 4 and trying to advance and click off the winners of the 8th and 10th as well. Okay, 5th race next up. It will start the pick 6. Like I mentioned, no carryover in the pick 6. What a fun maiden special weight race we have coming up here in the 5th race. 2-year-old fillies and some massive pedigrees to talk about in this spot. Let's give you a look at the picks across the way from the handicappers. Denim and Pearls, 4 top choices in here from the handicappers. $500,000 filly by Into Mischief with bullet local workouts. When you get these first-time starters with good local workouts on top of it, it's trainer Brad Cox, $500,000 runner. There is no way this horse is going to be 6-1 in the morning line. So expect looking with 4 public handicappers, all taking Denim and Pearls. You're going to get half of that, if that. 3-1 would probably be a little more than we're expecting. 6-1 in the morning line, not happening based on these works. But there are some other great pedigrees in this race, and maybe some horses who have star potential. Let's go right down to the rail. Bedazzle, the 1 horse, is a half to Just Cindy. She's a filly who won her debut in her first 2 starts last year, including the Schuylerville Stakes at Saratoga for 2-year-old fillies. She's bred to be good right out of the box. We'll see what the American Pharoah filly Bedazzle does right off the get-go. Best of all, the 2 is by Candy Ride out of Best Performance. The dam won her debut and was second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf when she was a 2-year-old. Best of all for trainer Chad Brown would be no surprise, Chad Brown and Tyler Gaffleone, and you might get a price in that particular spot. 6, Aunt Fanny, one of them I got picked in here. I've got her picked second. She's an Uncle Mo filly out of Ivory Empress. If Ivory Empress sounds familiar, she should. She's produced McCracken and 4 Graces. 2 2-year-olds and a colt and a filly, McCracken the colt and 4 Graces the filly over the years, who were just absolutely sensational, especially 1-turn horses. McCracken and 4 Graces are half to Aunt Fanny. What a great pedigree we've got with the 6 horse in this race. So there is a lot to like in here amongst the first-time starters. The price on Denim and Pearls at 6-1 in the morning line probably doesn't stick. If that price gets too short, I would have no problem whatsoever going to Aunt Fanny or Bedazzle 'em. Bedazzle's probably a more unlikely horse to win being down on the rail. You're just going to have to be absolutely the best to win a debut in a big field from down on the fence. Now, in these 2-year-old maiden specials, it's been all first-time starters and Churchill runners over the years. At the current meet, it's been the same way. The first-time starters have dominated the 2-year-old maiden specials, with the Churchill horses most likely next, most successful next. But if you look at the Churchill horses in this particular race, several of them are coming out of the same race on September 16th, a race that was won in 1:11 flat, a slow time. And the top, the top 6 finishers in that race all were within 2.5 lengths at the wire. When you have 6 horses within 2.5 lengths in a 2-year-old race like that, tells me there were no world beaters in there, and the time of 1:11 was slow. So they all just kind of clumped. I'm going to go against all the horses who ran in that Churchill race and had that experience, and assume with all these great pedigrees and the money that was spent on these horses and the trainers that we're talking about with these horses who have the good pedigrees, we're talking Ian Wilkes, we're talking Brad Cox, Chad Brown. I mean, we're talking some A-list trainers with the first-time starters of repute in here. I've got to think they beat that set from Churchill that come out of what looks to be a rather nondescript maiden race. And we'll see if experience matters. But in this particular case, more first-time starters have won these 2-year-old maiden specials this meet than from anywhere else. So I would go with the rookies and try to use at least 2 of them. I think Denim and Pearls and Aunt Fanny, race number 5. I would go too deep in that particular spot in the multi-race wagers. You start to get deeper, and now you're using a lot of different horses in there that kind of look similar on form. Try to get by with those top 2 for Brad Cox and Ian Wilkes, and we'll see how we fare in the 5th. On to race number 6 next up, and race number 6 is the first of 2 stakes races on the program. It's the Perryville Stakes, and the Perryvilles, we go to the big picture and give you a sense of what's happening here. The late pick 5 is going to start in this race. Second leg of the pick 6, and opening leg of the late pick 5. What a good field we've got in here. Verifying, horse who won the Indiana Derby. We've got Kentucky Derby alumni like Verifying and Raise Cane in here, as well as Confidence Game coming out of the Kentucky Derby. Literally hasn't run since the Kentucky Derby. He won the Rebel Stakes earlier this year. But the up-and-coming horse in here that we don't know as much about is one named Dr. Venkman. 2 for 2 lifetime at Del Mar coming off a big summer. I'm going to give you a chance to see Dr. Venkman in action last time out at Del Mar and get acquainted with the new face to the scene here for the Perryville.
To battle as one out. Phineas on the outside. Dr. Venkman now taking the lead though and kicking on for home. It's Dr. Venkman 3 parts of a length. Phineas has run a very brave one, but he's no match for Dr. Venkman. Dr. Venkman and Juan Hernandez, very impressive. Scintillating win, in fact. They win impressively. Big run from Phineas in second, and in behind those 2 came Hot Rod Rumble.
Big win and even bigger gallop out for Dr. Venkman. He's the top pick for Scott Hazelton and Tom Leach. Want to introduce you to that runner, and one that I've got picked 3rd in my top 3. Also, Kim Nelson's got Dr. Venkman into top 3. Of course, Verifying is the main player in here as far as name recognition for a lot of players. Second in the Toyota Bluegrass this spring to Tapit Trice. Ran a dynamite race that day. Just beating a half length on the wire. Led in much of the stretch run and just nailed by a neck by Tapit Trice. It would be no surprise at all for Verifying to come back and win this race. Now, there's a horse in here named Post Time coming in from Maryland for trainer Brittany Russell. Her husband, Sheldon Russell, will be riding. This horse was absolutely brilliant last year as a 2-year-old. Couldn't wait to see what Post Time might do as a local potential Preakness kind of horse, perhaps. But then was injured throughout the winter and did not come back until recently when taking on older horses at Pimlico. And if you watch the replay of that race, I mean, Post Time just didn't let out a breath until about the 8th pole and then just coasted. It was just absolutely visually stunning. I think there's a lot to love about Post Time. I was this close to picking Post Time on top, and then I handed and be exceptionally tough to beat in here. I don't see anybody to go with Verifying. And when you have a horse who's probably got the best credentials in the race, with the pace advantage, again, they don't give that kind of advantage back. And with the inside draw, I just think Verifying is going to be too tough. And even if Verifying doesn't get right on the leads, got to be second. And then coming out of some stronger races and 7/8 of a mile being a very achievable distance, I just don't see him beating Verifying. But I think Post Time could be special. I would not be surprised if this horse runs a cracker of a race. And I'm going to be playing the exactas in here, Verifying with Post Time. And this was really borderline one of my key plays of the day, but I'm afraid of Dr. Venkman, right? So you still got to get 2 horses to beat Dr. Venkman. I think he's got a lot of upside in here as well. You're not going to make any money with Verifying and Dr. Venkman. So, you know, maybe you put Post Time in the second slot with the 1 and the 3 and then some exactas in here, a 1-3 exacta and then a smaller 5-3 exacta, and that be the way to attack the race. Now, Raise Cane is the top choice in here for Caton and Kim. I'm not convinced that Raise Cane isn't better going 1 turn. His race in the Gotham might suggest that, where he had that one big rally. But again, this is a race where there's just not a lot of early speed. So I don't know. And if I'm going to take a closer, I'm taking Post Time because I'm just in love with the way this horse is run to this point. Now, the Beyer speed figures might say not competitive, but you got to understand the Beyer speed figures are kind of a conglomeration of what all the horses in the race are capable of doing, not just the horse who wins it. So if you win a race by 3 lengths and you're running against a bunch of horses that have only run 50s in their life, you're not going to get 100 because you beat a bunch of 50 horses by 3 lengths, right? It's only going to be slightly better than what they had. So he's a product of the figure history of all the horses he's been running against. If this horse runs a big race post time on Saturday, you'll know you heard it here first. And I think he's going to be live in here. I just think the classy horse with the speed in here, verifying. And maybe if Dr. Venkman shows speed coming out of the Del Mar races on the West Coast, wasn't a front runner on the West Coast, but in this particular spot, Dr. Venkman may be sent by John Velasquez toward the lead. Whoever's in the lead turning for home in this race, I think is winning the Perryville. That's the bottom line. And then I hope Post Time can rally on and run second and then have a big career down the line as a very promising, late developing now 3-year-old coming back from the injury. Let's go to the Keeneland Handicapper Selectors box and move on to the 7th race on the card. 7th race is a maiden special, 1 mile and a 16th here for the older horses. We've got a couple pedigree type players in here worth the look. You've got Cairo Prince with the 11, Alexander Helos. You got Honor Code with the 1, Gamekeeper. Both of those long shot horses, 15, 20 to 1 in the morning line. So if you're looking for some older maiden specials going 1 mile and a 16th and you say, nothing here has done that much throughout their career. They're already into their 3- and 4-year-old years in some cases and haven't broken their maiden yet. Maybe the pedigree will wake them up at Keeneland. Gamekeeper 1, you want to keep an eye on for that. Alexander Helios as well. But Malibu Springs is my top choice in here. This is a Kent Sweezy trainee coming in from New York. 6 to 1 in the morning line with Flavian Pratt assigned to ride. 5th place finish in the debut at Keeneland back in the spring meet, but that was behind Saudi Crown, who a really sharp Brad Cox trainee. He's gone on Pennsylvania Derby and some big races later in the year. Saudi Crown, an exceptional horse that he ran into when beaten 11 lengths here in the spring. I wouldn't look at that performance and say, wow, this horse doesn't like Keeneland based on that, because Saudi Crown was absolutely dominant that day, and it was the career debut from the rail for Malibu Springs. Has improved since that, so 3rd start off the layoff now, 2 starts in September in the Mid-Atlantic and New York. So I think Malibu Springs is set up nicely in the Ford cycle. 3rd race off the layoff, and the mile and a 16th should suit pretty well in here. But not a strong opinion in this particular spot. I like the 6 to 1 in the morning line. If you've got a better opinion than I do in this race, go for it. I'm going to go with Malibu Springs. Caton's also got Malibu Springs in here. But Furious Anger, the 9, gets a couple picks, and the 3 Dissolve gets a couple picks from the other handicappers. Furious Anger, the 9 for trainer Dale Romans. Romans does pretty well with these longer races with the maidens, the 2-year-old types. Now, I know this is a 3-year-old race, but the lightly raced horses stretching out and going long at Keeneland in the fall, usually a pretty good spot for Dale Romans. He picks the right ones in the right places historically. We'll see if Furious Anger stretches out off a 3rd place finish in 110 flat and a pretty fast time at Churchill back in September. Not a strong opinion for me in race number 7. So, earlier in the card, we had some not strong opinion races. We have some races where we have a strong opinion, but don't think we're going to get a price. We're through 7 races on the Keeneland Look Ahead. Now you know why my 3 key plays of the day are on races 8, 9, and 10, because that's kind of what we're left with, right? And we happen to have some horses. We're not just trying to shove a square peg through a round hole, but this might be a day where we don't dive in heavy on 3 particular plays, but let's see if we can't make a little hay here towards the back end of the card. Race number 8 is next up. It doesn't start the Keeneland Turf Pick 3, but will be the second leg of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. This is a mile and a 16th allowance race on the grass. We've seen the Kentucky Downs horses run exceptionally well here in the past in allowance races this time of year at Keeneland, and it's been that case so far this meet. They've won half of the allowance races via Kentucky Downs so far at this meet. So you want to look at your Kentucky Downs horses here in a race number 8. I've got a horse who's coming back from a Kentucky Downs effort last time, but coming back to Keeneland as part of what I'm calling the Welcome Home Committee, because it was October of 2021 the last time we saw Haughty run here at Keeneland, and it was one of the most visually pleasing turf maiden races I have ever seen in the 31 meets now that I've covered Keeneland. Haughty 2 years ago this time was absolutely fabulous the way that she came home and finished up. We haven't seen her at Keeneland since. And I've been expecting to see that race out of her in subsequent races as she's run throughout her career. She's run, 8, 9, 10 times since that. And she's been good. She won the Lake Placid Grade 2 at Saratoga. She's been in the money in some big races over the years and has run decently, but she hasn't turned into one of Chad Brown's turf superstars to the point where she's still eligible for a third level allowance race. But she's back at Keeneland, and I just think that there's something to her over this track that was better than what we saw at some other places. Horse for course. I think Haughty, welcome back to Keeneland under Tyler Gaffalione, is going to return to that form we saw here 2 years ago in the fall. And it's not like her current form is bad, right? I mean, she was fourth beaten a length and a half in the Kentucky Downs Ladies Stakes last time out, that being a grade 3 lucrative stakes in September. So she's been knocking on the door against good ones, but if she's got that turn of foot we saw back here in 2021, I think she's going to be exceptionally tough. I like Haughty, the welcome back committee. We've got the streamers and the band ready to play for 4-1 in the morning line. I hope we get that price because there's some other really competitive fillies in this race. So I think with Gaffalione and Brown teaming up, 4-1 might be a little ambitious, but 5-2, 3-1, maybe something like that. I wouldn't be shocked. We want to lean to the Kentucky Downs horses, but I really like Haughty. Welcome back to Keeneland, our homecoming game. Homecoming, you're supposed to schedule a really easy opponent, right? Because you want to get a victory. In her homecoming, she doesn't get the easiest of fields, but Scott, Tom, and I are all on Haughty in this particular spot. But then the gals, Kaiten and Kim, don't use her anywhere. They've got Sinfiltrate, the 7 for Kaiten, and the 1 Lovely Princess. We talk about Haughty being a horse for course. Lovely Princess for Kenny McPeak down on the rail. Kim's top pick in here is 2 for 2 over the racetrack at Keeneland. This will be a little tougher spot than her previous races at Keeneland, but she got through a first level and second level allowance race. Now she's taking on some stakes caliber runners in this third level race. But for me, let's get Haughty in. Let's look at some key plays maybe underneath with the 7 and the 10 for exotics. 9 with 7, 10 with all, 9 with all with 7, 10. Try to build out some trifectas, some multi-race wagers as well, because we've got key plays, remember, in races 8, 9, and 10. So let's try to string together some winners late in the card. I'm not a big pick 3 player, but in this particular case, one of my 3 best opinions and prices that I think I might get on the card are in the 8th, 9th, and 10th, and we might beat a favorite or 2 along the way, then maybe this is the time to even look at just a pick 3 ticket and try to punch it pretty straight. But we talked about having a single in race number 4 in the Keeneland Turf pick 3, right? Via Reggio. I like Haughty as a single in race number 8. So the Keeneland Turf pick 3 is a must bet. Let's hope we're on the turf coming up on Saturday so we can, focus on those horses that we really like, because we got single in races 4 and 8. To the 9th we go. This is the Lexus Raven Run Stakes, grade 2, $350,000. Vava's going to be my top pick in here. The favorite's going to be Alva Star, and Dazzling Blue for Brad Cox was the beaten favorite last time out in the prior rest. Let's go back to Saratoga and take a look at Alva Star versus Dazzling Blue last time out.
Dazzling Blue, a length and a half behind, and asks for much more than she's giving now. Alva Star pours it on, coming to the furlong pole as Jersey Pearl moves into second, and Dazzling Blue is third. It's all Alva Star. Alva Star in a sparkling performance streaks home by 8 widening lengths to take the prioress.
It was no contest at the Spa last time. The public had it wrong. The horse from Louisiana and Delaware Connections, Brent Brinkman and company, they had the star at Saratoga in Alva Star. She was sensational. Brad Cox's filly was bet down to 65 cents on the dollar in the prior rest. Did not muster enough when running third. Now, Tom Leach earlier this week caught up with Brad Cox on site at Keeneland and talked about Dazzling Blue and her chances of rebounding here in the Raven Run. And he also asked about a couple key Brad Cox trainees we've seen here recently at Keeneland and what might be in store for them. Let's take a look.
Brad Cox settles Dazzling Blue in the Lexus Raven Run. And last race at Saratoga, a little bit of a regression. What did you see there?
Yeah, a little bit off the race at Belmont. We kind of, maybe asked her to make her move just a little bit early. Obviously, the winner was very good that day. I don't know if we were getting her regardless of how we run early. But, hoping to rebound. I'm thinking she may take the 7/8 a little bit more than the 3/4 last time. And see what happens.
Yeah, being, I guess, out of a curling mare, you would think more distance the better.
Stretch out. I mean, I have kind of thought, based off her performance, that she's probably limited to one turn. But, we'll see how she takes this 7/8.
You had to be very excited with that race in May at Churchill, and then she ran great against Maple Leaf Mill.
Yeah, she did. She ran a great race there in the victory ride at Belmont, and like I said, just didn't really go our way. I mean, it wasn't a bad race in the prior race, just not, as well as we were hoping. Hopefully she can rebound here this weekend.
She's trained well down at Ellis, I see.
Yes, she's been down there. She went there after the Saratoga meet, trained very well, and a pretty good string of works leading up to this.
Let me ask you about First Mission. Very impressive in his comeback from winning the Lexington here in the spring. What's next for him?
Looking at the Clark with him, we think he's a big-time horse. He obviously last 2 runs, one in the spring here. And Lexington was a huge run, and then to get up and do what he did the other day was very impressive. And we're excited about pointing for the Clark right now in a big 2024.
Nice looking 2-year-old on Wednesday with Air of Defiance. Do you go allowance next, or do you go into a stake?
Probably stake.
Yeah.
We'll see.
He was impressive.
He was. Louis did a good job of letting him settle in, relax, and sit next to some other horses, and finished up really, really well. It was his second run. He got away good yesterday. Didn't get away good in his first start, and we'll see what happens.
Thanks to Tom Leach, one of the good guys in the game, getting those interviews for us. Keeneland Select and at Keeneland.com, and on the Keeneland YouTube page, you can check out all of Tom's interviews throughout the meet. Be sure to check those out. We try to work them into the podcast here when we can. Good info there from Brad Cox. Will they be able to turn the tables? I'm not so sure. If you're going to beat Alva Star in this particular race, the one I'm going to do it with is Vava. She's got a race here at Keeneland in which she just didn't quite finish the deal on Allowance Company, but she ran exceptionally well over the track, just got nailed at the end. The thing that I think is going to put her over the top this time is she comes out of the Charlestown Oaks, a 7 furlong race. But what a lot of people don't know that don't follow Charlestown is 7 furlongs is a 2-turn race at Charlestown. So I think she got more out of that race than a typical 7 furlong race. 2 lead changes in there. And if she's a little bit stronger coming out of that race, she could finish the deal this time at Keeneland, where last year she came up just a bit short here, or in the spring meet, came up just a bit short at Keeneland. Vava, very talented horse for Cherie DeVoe, and I think coming out of that 2-turn Charlestown Oaks is going to be a key here. Now, you say Charlestown Oaks, that's Bush League, that's night racing, that's not Keeneland preparatory. Well, in the last few years, 2 horses coming out of the Charlestown Oaks have won the Raven Run. So it's a good spot for her. I know the prior rest at Saratoga is an obviously good spot to lead horses into this race, but the Charlestown Oaks has also been effective. So Vava, my horse, and as we say amongst our key plays of the day, it's a 2-turner, help finish it off. That last start for Vava at Charlestown might be what puts her over the top. I've got her on top, and let's see what the other handicappers have in the 9th race, the Lexus Raven Run. Vava top pick also for Caton, Alva Star, the top choice for Kim Nelson, Dazzling Blue, and Lady Rattler. So we've got, 4 different horses in this race amongst 5 public handicappers. We're spread out a little bit more than maybe the betting will suggest in this particular spot. Alva Star, I think, is going to be a fairly heavy favorite. She got a big buyer speed figure last time, getting that 98 and winning by 8+ lengths. And Tyler Gaffleone takes them out. So you get a leading rider. I know it's Brent Brinkman. It's not a trainer, from Louisiana and Delaware that we're used to seeing at Keeneland with an A-lister horse, but that doesn't matter. We saw Terrace come in here from Penn National and win this race a couple years back for trainer Todd Beatty. Beatty's back with the 2 Simply Stated. So the right horse can win this race. We've seen it. It doesn't matter what side of the tracks you necessarily come from. So while Alva Star's connections aren't what we're used to seeing here at Keeneland Blue Bloods, this horse can flat out run. When you win at Saratoga, win the prior rest the way she did it, we saw on video there, she is very, very good. Lady Rattler, I wrote the word usable next, so that would be my 4th choice in this particular spot, coming off that 23-1 upset in the Dogwood Stakes. Scott's going right back with her, Lady Rattler, and I think you're going to get a nice price. That one's listed 5-1 in the morning line, but I think it's going to go up higher than that. The public has got to go in on the 7 Alva Star in here. Brad Cox is not going to get let go with Dazzling Blue, and I think Vava's going to get bet with Johnny V. I mean, this horse has really never run a bad race in her career, especially around 1 turn. She's really good here, and I think she's set up nicely off that 7 furlong race last time at Charlestown around 2 turns. Give me Vava or give me death, I guess, as we say. But I'm in terms of a multi-race wager, I think 4 and 7, Vava or Alva Star. If Dazzling Blue wins, I'll be surprised. If one of the others in here wins this race, I'll be surprised. Alva Star is either a superstar or Vava is going to finish the deal this time. That's the way I see this race. It's a 2-horse race. Vava's a straight win bet for me here at anything 3-1 or more. And I think we might get the 3-1 in here because I think Dazzling Blue is going to get bet some. We know Alva Star is going to get bet, and I think Alva Star is going to get bet hard. I would not be surprised if Alva Star is in that 6-5 range when we hit post time for the 9th race. 10th on the card is the final, and it's our final key play of the day. It's also the final race of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. Now, this is not one of those key plays of the day that I'm sitting here and telling you is a single, right? We talked about some other horses like Howdy. Howdy, I want to take as a single in race number 8. My key play in here should be a price, but we're taking a little bit of a risk here because we don't know what we're going to get with Zatip. Zatip's my top choice in here as we look at the Keeneland Handicapper Selectors box, and I'm on the island. Nobody else has taken Zatip, the 4, in this particular spot. Gregory's Pride, Axthelm, 2 horses that get a lot of love across the way, Fauci, the 11. So really the logical players in here are 5, 10, 11 as you look across the morning line and you look across what we've got in the Handicapper Selectors box. But why am I going in on Zatip here? Now, this is a Graham Motion trainee who's by Tappet out of Zaftig. Zaftig was an exceptionally fast mare. She was brittle. She didn't have a long career, but she was absolutely brilliant. By Tappet out of Zaftig. You would not geld this horse unless it was the absolute last possible thing you could do. They have gelded since a year layoff Zaftig and bring this one back to the races. Wertheimer and Frere, the heirs to the big perfume fortune and had so many great turf milers and grass horses over the years. They're going to try to make a grass horse out of this one come hell or high water now because it's a gelding. In Zatip for trainer Graham Motion gets Johnny Velasquez, a really good post. Now, 11 horses are entered in this race if all 11 start. You know I like with those big capacity 12-horse fields, the post 3, 4, and 5. The stats start to dwindle a little bit as you start to talk about 10-horse fields, 11-horse fields. Again, because it's about the congestion of the turf course where I think, so if you get even a little bit of break where there's only 11 in here or scratches down to 10, you're not just leaning on post 3, 4, and 5 you are the way you are when there's a full capacity gate at 12. But nonetheless, the 4-hole is not a bad place to be at all. So I like the post position here with Zatip. And I'm just going to assume here that Graham Motion, after a year, bringing this one back on the turf, I got a feeling they're going to have something here. And they get Johnny Velasquez. So 15-1 on the morning line for the best bred horse in the race. And unless they think they can make a racehorse out of this horse, I just can't see any way in the world you would geld a horse by Tappet out of Zaftig. I mean, you just think that you could get some stud value there on that alone, whether the horse had any credentials on the racetrack at all. Did win here. Zatip did win here in 2021 during the fall meet at Keeneland on the main track. That's irrelevant to the conversation we're having here as a turf sprint. But I'm going to hope that they made a very uneasy choice, gelding a horse who was probably worth more money at stud if there was potential there, to bring him back after a year. I'm going to take my shot with Zatip. Not a single. I think this is one where you want to go a couple deep. Remember, we're single in the first 2 legs of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. So let's use Zatip in here and use the other logical players that we've got in race number 10 to wrap things up. Gregory's Pride, the 10, Axthelm, the 5, certainly the ones in there. You want to use the 11, Fauci, I wouldn't argue with you. I don't know if we need to get quite that far. I do have usable next to that one under Gaffleon, but this is a horse who gets a lot of underneath races and finishes without winning. Fauci could definitely hit the board 2, 3, 4, but if I'm playing a multi-race wager, I'll let that one beat me. I'll try to get a little bit more on the combinations I like than trying to cover a horse who's got a bunch of 2nd and 3rd place finishes in a wager where you have to win to collect. So while Fauci might be the 2nd, 3rd, 4th best horse in the race, the most likely to run first, I would not put him in that kind of ranking. He's probably the 4th or 5th most likely horse to run first in this race. And for a pick 3 or the pick 4, pick 5, pick 6, that's all we care about. So Zatip on top for me. You want to get some win money and then maybe some exacta boxes, a key box 4 with the 10-5 exacta key box. Same with the tries and supers. Try to get this horse in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th slots. And Zatip, if we can get this horse to run 1, 2, 3 somewhere with the 10-5 in the mix as well, we can make a nice score at the end of the day. Definitely our best chance of the day to make a big score is in the 10th and final race, and that's our final key play of the day. That's going to wrap up this edition of the Keeneland Look Ahead. Went a little long, but some of these Saturday cards are really good. We had a lot to talk about. Good review of the Friday program as well. Cross our fingers that we're on the turf tomorrow, and also cross our fingers that this dirt track dries out quicker in the morning. So when we start racing in race number 1 at 1 o'clock Eastern, we've got it on a fairly good to fast track and not a deep, heavy, muddy, drying out track, because those can be laboring and really create some bonkers results. When you see long shot days at racetracks, a lot of times it's on a deep, drying out racetrack. So let's hope we don't get that with Saturday's action. Be sure to tune in 11:30 a.m. Eastern for Today at Keeneland with Kate Bradar and Scott Hazelton. I'll be back with you on Saturday night to preview Sunday's card at Keeneland, which features the Dowager Stakes. Good night, everybody, and good luck.